One of the most common doubts every beginner faces is this: which plane should I pick to start my model? And just as important, where should I place the origin? Right at the corner, right at the center, or somewhere else? These two decisions may look small, but they define the entire design process, assembly alignment, and even how easily it will be to add the dimensions later. In this video, we'll break down the rules, best practices, and simple tips to help you confidently decide the right sketch plane and best origin placement for any part you design. When starting a design, one of the first questions we face is, which sketch plane should I choose? Front, top, right, or any custom one? The first thing you should consider is your design intent. Design intent is basically how your part is supposed to behave when you make changes. It is about planning ahead so that if you modify dimension, feature, assemblies later, your model updates correctly without breaking. If you are creating a part that is symmetric, then choose a plane through the axis of symmetry. It could be either the front, top, or right. Like here we have this part and it has the vertical symmetry. So I create the sketch on right plane. This helped me in my mirror operation without creating other reference plane. And if your part will be placed inside the assembly, pick the plane that naturally aligns with how the part connect with other. For example, imagine you are designing a bracket that will mount on the vertical wall. Since the wall is vertical, it makes sense to start sketching the bracket on the front plane. Later, when you bring the bracket into assembly, it naturally aligns with the wall surface, saving you from rotating and reorienting it. Next, think about the orientation of the feature you want to define. Orientation refers to direction or the view from which you are looking at your part or assembly. It is all about how your sketch features or planes are aligned in 3D space. Like here, we have this simple model that is cuboid. Now, if we observe here, the length is 200 mm, width is 100 mm, and the height of the model is 40 mm. Now, let's say we are choosing the front plane. It means we should use the length and height in sketch of the model for proper orientation and then extrude it to the depth of 100 mm. Likewise, if you select the right plane to create the model with the similar orientation, we can create this sketch of width 100 mm and height 40 mm and then extrude to the depth of 200 mm. And if you are choosing the top plane, then we can use the length and the width to create this sketch and then extrude it to the depth of 40 mm. Your orientation determines which plane is easiest to start your sketch on, so it's important to use proper dimension when you are selecting a plane. Another tip is to choose the plane where the dimensioning will be easier. For example, you are making the flat plate with holes. Sketching on the top plane makes sense because you can position the holes using simple x and y coordinates. When we say choose the plane where the dimensioning is easier, we mean to pick the plane where the main layout of the feature aligns with the plane's axis. The top plane corresponds to x and y plane. Flat plates usually have the width and depth as their main dimension. Holes on the plate can be positioned using x and y coordinates directly. This is why the top plane is intuitive for flat plates. Now, let's talk about the situation when the default planes don't work. If none of the default plane fit your design, That's where the reference plane comes in. For example, if you need a slot or a hole at 45-degree angle, you can create a new plane at an angle and sketch directly on it. So the rule is simple. Ask yourself which direction you want to start building the model and choose the plane that best represents that view. Now, let's break down the origin placement in detail. Origin acts as the reference point. It basically defines the location of the object in the drawing area. For example, here we create a sketch and then apply dimension to it. But still, one parameter needs to be defined, that is the location from the origin. If we define the horizontal and the vertical distance from the origin by applying dimension, as shown on the screen, then we observe that our sketch gets fully defined and the position of the sketch gets fixed. So basically, the origin helps to define the location of entities. Now, coming back to our question, again, keeping the origin at the center or at any place totally depends upon the design intent. Like if we are going to create the symmetric model, keeping the origin at the center will help you in performing the operations like mirror without creating the additional reference plane. Also, sometimes the origin is chosen on the basis of how the part will be machined or measured. For example, in CNC machining, the machine needs a 0 point to start cutting or drilling accuracy. This 0 point is usually placed at the corner or the edge of the raw material block, not at the geometric center. So there is no specific rule for that. It depends on the part type, symmetry, assembly needs, and manufacturing needs. So choosing the right plane and deciding where to place the origin isn't about following the strict rule. It's about understanding your design intent, symmetry, assembly needs, and manufacturing reference. Making the right choice at the start will save you a lot of time later in sketch assemblies and drawing.